And so to answer your question that you may be wanting to ask, would we buy C-DORY again? Absolutely. All right, hello again. This is part 2 of C-DORY Q&A. We are going to finish the questions that we have listed from all of our viewers who had asked us questions on YouTube and Instagram. And so part 2, do we have a toilet on board? And yes, I can say that we do. It's just a standard cassette toilet, and that's what we use. It's very convenient. I just take it into the marinas and dump it into the bathrooms. A lot of the marinas do also have a dump location down by the piers, so it's not difficult at all. So we do have a toilet on board, and that works good for us. How do we shower, and do we have a shower?
So showering, we used to like warm up water in a bucket or whatever, especially on the Great Lakes when it was fresh water, and then have a little pump that sprayed out the back. But now we basically take a 2-liter pop bottle and put the spray, or not spray, what do you call it?
A shower head on
shower
it.
head, and then warm it up and then just go in the back and shower that way.
Because of the canvas in the back of the boat, we can shower back there privately, and so that works really well. We can heat it up on the stove, and so we do have warm water too. So we do have many options to shower on the boat. And do we have a refrigerator on board? And I can answer that, but Bob, you're gonna have to answer the type. Yes, we do have a refrigerator on board. What size is it? What type is it?
Size, I think a 2.3, but you can't quote me on that. It's a Norcold, and it's a 12 volts. And then if you plug the shore power, then it's 110 volts. So very nice, works great. The solar, the 100 watt solar panel, because you're clear sky all day, no trees, keeps up with it. So that really is something that we put in ourselves underneath the pilot seat, and has worked out very well.
It's a tiny refrigerator, but just for the 2 of us it works great. But we used to have our guys on board with us, and so there were 4, and I never had a problem with having enough refrigerator space and storage space for food. So that refrigerator works great. People ask us, how do we cook? And we cook with a stove that we have on the boat. And what kind of a stove is it?
So it's a Wallas diesel stove. It's worked awesome, because that was one of the things people used them as boat anchors. I think we got the new model, even though it's 13 years old. We've had no trouble with it. We run straight diesel in it. Just has a little container of diesel that we put underneath, and it's worked great.
And so it's a multi-purpose stove, because we also use that as our heater. It has a fan on it when we put the hood down, and then we use that to heat the boat. So that works really good, keeps the boat nice and toasty and dry with the fans that we have in there. So we wouldn't change that at all. And that's a 2-burner stovetop that we use.
We use that diesel heater almost every time we're on the boat.
Yeah.
All summer, because the Pacific Northwest can be cold.
It's cold at night, and the water is freezing cold, so the boat does get cold at night. So we love our diesel stovetop. Another question is, how many people can our boat sleep?
So at one time we had both boys with us for a few trips, and so there's 4 of us. So 2 in the V-berth, 1 on the salon side or the table side that goes down, and then our youngest would sleep on the floor.
On the floor, on a little mat on the floor. So that always worked great for us. So it's a tiny boat. We could barely move around, but you have the back of the boat that gave us extra space. And our boat is so easy, and well, that brings up a question that somebody had is, can you beach the boat? How much draft is it?
So I think the draft is under a foot. I don't know exactly. I want to say 7 inches, but I could be wrong. But it's very little draft. We do beach the boat. We put a protective piece on the front bow.
Like a really hard rubber strip.
And that's worked great. I mean, that's stayed on there all these years. And so we can beach it. It's also a flat bottom boat. So in the North Channel, which is on Lake Huron, on top of Lake Huron, awesome water up there, we would jump out of the boat when we were really shallow water and then walk it into really shallow water, and we love that.
And that's where we would stay for the night, in places like that where other boats couldn't get in, because we could walk it in. We have very little draft, and so we were always getting into coves where no other boat could get.
Yeah.
So,
and we do that any place, even the Pacific Northwest or Alaska or whatever. No, we can go in where other boats are worried about the depth, so we are not. And in the tides, if we hit a low tide, we just put the engines up and we saddle down in the bottom. Now, we've never done that, but
no,
we don't have to worry about it. If we missed the low tide and we ended up on the bottom, it's fine.
And I guess since we're talking about that, that is why we love the C-Dory, because it's super convenient, easy to trailer, small enough size, so therefore you don't have the expenses. It's super easy to dock and to handle. Compared to our 32-foot boat, you couldn't trailer it anywhere.
Yeah.
Docking was very difficult. It's such a versatile boat that doesn't take a lot of maintenance.
And our big
storage.
boat, yeah, and our big boat we had to put in heated storage. It had a lot of wood. It was a fairly expensive boat, even though price-wise, when we sold it, it was fairly similar to what we paid for the C-Dory. But the C-Dory we can keep in storage for months, and when we get there, if there's any mold, which we haven't, and this is Pacific Northwest, so it's very moist out there, we just wipe it down with bleach and it goes away. There's no hidden panels,
no wood, nothing.
There's no wood, nothing to leak or whatever. So.
No insulation, nothing holding moisture. Yeah, it works great.
And one thing that I don't know if it's part of the questions, but it's balsa wood boat, so meaning you have a fiberglass and then you have this corrugated balsa wood in between, and then fiberglass in the bottom. So I went through and pulled out all the screws, all the hardware, drilled it out. You dig out the inside, fill it with epoxy, and then re-drill again. So now you're drilling through straight epoxy all around that hole. So if water were to leak in, it doesn't leak into that balsa core. Because if it goes into the balsa core, then you end up having rotted areas, and it just spiders out. So we have no risk at that. I took out every piece of hardware that we had and epoxied all the holes.
Yeah,
so.
Makes it more solid too.
Yeah.
Right? Another question is, somebody asks, what's your longest trip you've ever taken?
Well, it would be to Alaska. So we went from Blaine, Washington to Petersburg, Alaska, and I don't remember, 6 weeks, I think we did. Then we stored it in Petersburg, Alaska for 2 years, and then went back up and then brought it back down on its bottom. But then we went both engines down on the way down, so we went much quicker. But that was probably a 6-week trip, and oh my god, that was...
Do you remember how many miles it was?
I don't. I want to say it was 1,200 miles, but I don't remember.
Oh, okay. If you really want to know, we can look that up, because we that's accessible to us. And yeah, that was the longest trip we've ever done. That was interesting from the sense of we've never done such a long passage. We had some open water, 3 gates that we had to cross.
There's 5 gates.
5 gates?
There's 5 gates that you have to do to go to, and the gates are more, you have to get through certain areas. Like one of them is where you're open water to the ocean, so you have to time it right. You got to worry about tides, and then the river's coming back out, and a number of different things. And if you boat a lot, you deal with tides, it's probably not that big a deal. But there was a number of areas that were very dicey, but it was no problem. You just had to make your weather window work. So
right. And us being on the Great Lakes, we've never experienced tides, we've never experienced rivers coming together, none of that. And so that was all new learning and exciting, and yeah, that was one of our most memorable trips. Another question is, what type of safety measures do you have on the boat?
So we have flares. So we do all the Coast Guard requirements. So we have all that. We have life jackets. As we leave the dock, we put those on, and because things happen fast, and you don't have time to go looking for that life jacket, and you don't want to. You want to be saving the boat, or you want to be doing whatever. So
Yeah.
It's not a question in our minds if we're going to put them on right away. We always do when we leave the dock. So
The other safety measures we have is our radio, that we can radio the Coast Guard anytime.
yeah, and we have AIS on there too. So we transmit out our location and our name via AIS. So we have other safety things like fire extinguishers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. What type of navigation do we use? Navigation tool? Do we use paper maps?
No, I'm a tech head. So we have a Zoom tablet, which is like from 2007. It still works great. It actually has a GPS built in. So I have a Navionics on that, and that works great. But I also then have Tech, which is probably old software now. But anyway, it interlays the radar over the chart, and so that works good. But I really use the Zoom because I can just go in and out, and the Zoom's, I don't know, 11 inches or something like that. So it works well, but we're getting our mileage out of that Zoom. And in the backup, I have then the laptop, but I also have it on my phone, and so it's really not that big a deal. So at least for us, we don't need paper backup because we have so many options.
We have them. We have the books, and we have the
Possibly, yeah. It depends on where we're boating. We had it for the Great Lakes. I don't know if we have it now. But.
Yeah. And we did it for Alaska and the Inside Passage, where all the anchorages were, and things like that. But yeah, we hardly ever use that. And so that brings up the question of where have we cruised with the C-Dory? And we've been on the Great Lakes. We've been on Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Lake Ontario. We've done many of the canals. We've done the Trent Severn, the Rideau Canal, the Erie Canal. Am I missing any of the canals?
No, I think that's it. Trent Severn is fantastic. It's they're in Canada, so it's a Rideau. Rideau is fun, but the Trent Severn was
because of all the locks and the various lifts and the way you get from river to river. I mean, that one was phenomenal.
And they have really locks that aren't just normal locks.
No.
I mean, they have ones that take you off the land on this whatever and puts you back in.
On a boat carrier,
land.
yeah.
Yeah, and other ones where you go in a bucket and this bucket goes up and this, and then you go up and you go off and people come down. I mean,
that one is an exciting,
it is a great
fun
cruise
one to
for
do.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, we've explored the San Juan Islands. We've gone over to Victoria Island, and then, like we said, all the way up to Alaska. So, and a couple more questions. What is your opinion on how the boat handles in rough seas?
Well, what I like about it, I mean, it handles great, but what I love about it is I have those. It doesn't matter if they're twins, it could just be a single engine, but I really watch those waves, and I can cruise through the troughs and then back off when I see a wave coming and then do it again. On the tug, no, we just sat and just waited for that big wave to come.
Yeah.
This I can cruise around and get through, so I feel much better than I did in the tug. I like it
I do
much
too.
better, yeah.
Plus we can go faster, which is odd, but when we were out in the tug, and we were stuck there because that only went 6 knots, 7 knots.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, we also have the trim tabs and the perma-trim.
So,
Am I saying that right?
Yeah, so when I first bought the boat, took it out on a local lake and had no trim tabs, no perma-trim, and it dolphined. And there was hardly any waves.
Like, oh my God, how is this going to work?
It dolphined, so I ended up putting trim tabs on it, which I had already planned to do, and then put on perma-trim, and perma-trim go on the engine themselves. Each motor has it on there, so I can just use the trim control on the motors and lower and raise the bow of the boat, and so it works great. So sometimes if it's choppy, because it's not really great in small chop unless you put the trim tabs down or the perma-trim, then it's fine, it's perfect. But I don't know that flat bottom, I'm not naval engineer.
And so to answer your question that you may be wanting to ask, would we buy C-Dory again? Absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing
Absolutely.
is, so before we bought the van, we had no assets, just business assets, but no personal assets outside of clothes, of course. And we went to the C-Dory. I was wondering, will I want to sell it? Because we had no assets, and we loved that. And we're like, no, we can't. And we only use it a few times, or a few weeks out of the year. Next year we plan on doing the Great Loop, so we'll be out a little longer. But it's a great boat. Easy, super easy to store. We pay like $50 a month to have it stored on the hard on its trailer, and it's a great boat.
So we're very happy with the C-Dory.
And I have it set up just like I had the Tug with autopilot and navigation and everything. So I'm kind of geeky on all that stuff, and I'm able to put it in, and that's why I bought it, is because I knew I could. And we sold the Tug because it was just too big, and we were like, we're not going to get another boat, and then all of a sudden we found the C-Dory, like, that's it. And the day that the Tug sold, I signed a purchase order on the C-Dory, and it was perfect.
Yeah. And that was a question somebody had asked, what is our next adventure on the boat? And we plan on doing the Great Loop next year, whether we'll do it all in one or sections. We haven't figured that out yet, but we plan on doing the Great Loop next year.
My guess is that we'll do it all at once. It's just who we are. And here's the last of the sunset.
I hope everyone enjoyed our question and answer videos on the C-Dory. Don't forget that we will also be doing the Great Loop in 2022. And check out our other videos on the C-Dory adventures that we've had. There are several out there on YouTube and also on our Facebook at Gay and Robert. And remember, subscribe. Thanks so much for all the questions, and we will see you in the morning.